It's no secret that Colorado and Deion Sanders already had a target on their back, but comments made by their quarterback and his son, Shedeur Sanders, may have only made that target a little bit bigger.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Buffs. I am your host, Kevin Borba. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. We are also brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day for free and available wherever you get your podcast. So thank you guys for tuning in and making me your first listen of the day. We are talking about comments made by one Mr. Shedeur Sanders. I think you guys probably saw them, and if you didn't, I'm glad I could break the news to you. Shedeur Sanders may have just made arguably one of his first mistakes at Colorado, and I think it was one that was very much avoidable. It was one that wasn't necessary, and it is one that I think has put a bigger target on Colorado's back. Now, I don't want to act like Colorado already doesn't have a target on their back. I think they are probably the most disliked team in college football in the sense that people want to see them fail. People want to see them fall on their face. People want to see them struggle. That's just how it is. They don't like Coach Prime. They don't like his flashiness. They don't like his methods, whether you agree with them or not. We could all agree that there are a lot more fans that are concentrated on a Colorado team that went 4-8 than there are on a program like, say, I don't know. You could throw like Texas A&M. You could argue that Colorado is going to draw much more criticism this next season than Texas A&M is, or Miami. If Colorado struggles, if Miami struggles and Colorado struggles, I do think more people will be talking about Colorado struggling. Now, a lot of that comes with the popularity. When they started off strong, everyone loved it. There was like this team. They were America's team or something like that, I believe Jimmy Horn said. But now I think people are growing a little tired of them, and this latest social media post by Shedeur Sanders doesn't really help their case. So, and I'm going to talk about this in the next segment, the overall, I guess, issue at hand here, which is the Athletic. This isn't the issue. This is not the issue by any means. This is where a lot of the news is coming from. The Athletic released a story 22 hours ago, so yesterday, and it was discussing where all of the players that Coach Prime basically asked to leave the program ended up last season. So if you guys don't remember, he said, I'm bringing my luggage. It's Louis, and I want you guys to hit the portal so I could bring in more guys. There were a couple guys that did interviews, and one of them stuck around. His name's Xavier Smith. He ended up at Austin Peay this past season, was a FCS freshman All-American. He was one of the guys that they interviewed for the story, and he had these quotes that said, when he was being basically kicked off the team, he said, I was getting mad, like tears coming to my eyes because, bro, you never even tried to get to know me. He also said he was destroying guys' confidence and belief in themselves. The way he did it, it could have been done with a little more compassion. So a lot of what he was saying was the way Coach Prime kicked these guys out was a little heartless. It was a little insensitive, and it was done in a manner that made it seem like he wasn't going to try to coach them, which I don't think anyone is doubting. I think Coach Prime made it quite clear that he wanted all of those guys to leave. And if they stuck around, he wanted them to compete. And if they competed, like Trevor Woods or Charlie Offerdahl, for instance, who's now on scholarship. If I didn't tell you guys that, Charlie Offerdahl on scholarship. There's just certain guys that stuck around. And it's like, okay, those guys stuck around. They won his approval. They won his sort of admiration. And unfortunately for Xavier Smith, he was not one of those guys. And so there's a tweet going around, and it has those quotes. And Shador commented or quoted it, said, I don't even remember him, TBH. Bro had to be very mid at best. And then there's guys like Caleb Mathis in the comments posting highlights of him running ones on him. And there's just a lot of people coming for them. And I don't think this is necessary by any means. I think this is, like I said, probably Shador's biggest mistake at Colorado thus far. I think for a program that doesn't like when people unnecessarily hate on them, I think this gives people ammunition. This is a tweet that people, as soon as Colorado loses or stumbles next season, this tweet is going to be brought up next year. I think there's more people who could have been on the fence about Colorado, because I do think there's a lot of people that acknowledge they get unnecessary hate, but I do think there's a lot of people that think the hate is warranted. And those that do are going to bring this tweet up. So every time Shedeur struggles, this tweet's going to be brought up. It's just one of those things. We live in a social media society where whatever you post, whatever you tweet, say, whatever it may be, is remembered. People will hold on to it. His tweet currently has 346 bookmarks and counting. So a lot of people, and it has 469,000 impressions. So a lot of people are going to be coming back to this. Now, you guys are probably going to get in the comment section and be like, he was coming for his dad. He was protecting his dad. And I don't disagree. I think it could have been said differently. I think you could have gone without basically trashing an individual. And I think that's kind of the hard part about social media is a lot of the times to boost our own arguments, we have to discredit another individual. We have to shoot down another individual. And I think that's exactly what Shedeur Sanders did here. And I don't think it was necessary by any means. If he wanted to say that's not how it went down or that's not how things went, he could have just been like, things don't always work out for everybody, or he could have not said anything. I think there's an old saying, when you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it at all. And I think this perfectly applies to Shedeur Sanders here. I think he's going to be bringing in a ton of negative attention to himself, to the program. And it wouldn't surprise me if Deion Sanders himself has to be like, dude, we didn't need that. You didn't need to say that. Obviously, this is way far in advance, but does this affect Shedeur's draft stock? Which obviously fans don't dictate draft stock. It's up to the GMs ultimately. There's been things done much worse. We've had Laramie Tutzel with the gas mask. We've had guys with criminal offenses get drafted just later than expected. So I don't think this is going to prevent Shedeur from being a first-round pick. But does this kind of turn off a team for Shedeur Sanders? If they think it's close between him and, say, like Quinn Ewers, are they going to be like, well, does Shedeur bring in a lot of attention? Does he have maybe some of the best arm talent? Yeah. But is he prone to saying things like this? So do we want this? Is this a distraction? So don't really know why he felt the need to say it. I'm really question the overall purpose of getting that message out. Now, I get what a lot of you are going to say, where those guys weren't good or those guys needed to go. And I'm not going to shoot down the guys that left the program. I'm not going to shoot down the guys that tried to stay because they wanted to compete. They wanted to try. They wanted to play for Coach Prime. Could you blame them? You get a ton of attention. You get an opportunity to be coached by all the reasons that you guys say to other people why people want to come to Colorado. You guys have to understand that those are the same reasons that those guys want to stay and play for Coach Prime. It works both ways. It's not like a mutually exclusive thing where it's like, no, only guys that wanted to play here from other schools that we want are the ones that fit that narrative. No, the guys that were at Colorado, that were recruited to Colorado, they wanted to play there. They wanted to play for Deion Sanders. To them, that was an upgrade over Carl Durrell. To them, that was like, okay, we have an NFL Hall of Fame coach that I get to learn from, especially a guy like Smith here, because he was someone who was a defensive back. So I think Xavier Smith, I think him kind of wanting to learn from Deion Sanders is a fair thing. Now, Deion Sanders made his message clear, didn't really get through to some of the guys, and some of the guys it worked out for and others it didn't. But I don't think this was necessary by Shedeur Sanders. You guys could comment below. I'm sure you guys will agree or disagree with me. Was it necessary for Shedeur Sanders to kind of go out of his way and call this guy mid at best? I don't think it was. I think this puts a target on Colorado's back. They already had one, but now people are going to be kind of more egged on. This adds more fuel to other teams' fires. This adds more fuel to their fan base's fires. And I don't know if it was absolutely necessary. When we come back, I'm going to be talking about the article and kind of going over where people are misunderstanding Coach Prime's overall message to the 2022 roster. But first, a word from our sponsors over at Gametime. This episode of Locked On Buffs is brought to you by our sponsors at Gametime. And let me tell you, Gametime is now an authorized ticket marketplace of the NBA, which makes getting playoff tickets even faster and easier. Prices on Gametime app go down the closer it gets to tip-off. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Take the guesswork out of buying your NBA tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege. That's LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. This episode of Locked On Buffs is also brought to you by our sponsors over at FanDuel. It's playoff time in the NBA and NHL, and baseball's in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on an app that is safe, secure, and easy to use. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. Welcome back to Locked On Buffs. I appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me your first listen of the day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. So thank you guys, like I said, for making me your first listen. We're talking about the 2022 complaints. As soon as I saw this article, I knew it was going to be like the same old, like, oh gosh, here we go again with the guys talking about getting kicked out of Coach Prime's or getting kicked out of the program at Colorado. And I say this every time, and people don't like this. They disagree with it if they're not sort of aware of what goes on behind closed doors in college football. But let me just say this, and this was a very interesting sort of statistic. So Coach Prime had 53 players leave the program, whether it be guys that were on the previous team or guys like Shedeur who transferred in and then left. So he had 53 players leave. Of those 53 players, 15 went to other Power 5 programs, 22 ended up at Group of 5 programs, 11 went to FCS or Division II, 2 attended junior colleges, and 3 of them went unsigned. And then you kind of look at what their production was, and it wasn't great. A lot of these guys did not pan out at their next school. For every guy that, like Xavier Smith, who was an FCS All-American, there were guys who transferred to another school and didn't really play. There are guys who ended up transferring again or transferring to a lower level after not really playing at their next school. So I understand why people would be offended, and I guess in a sense, but realistically, let's just say that roster wasn't going to be one that Coach Prime was going to win with. And you guys could say, oh, well, he didn't win with his roster. He won 3 more games than they won the year prior. Realistically, Coach Prime brings that roster in and tries to make additions here and there. Say they go 2-10. Coach Prime is going to be criticized relentlessly. You cannot be a head coach in college football and just kind of be like, well, you got to give us the benefit of the doubt because this roster was bad last year and I'm still working on it. That'll only get you so much time. When you're Deion Sanders, that is not something that you have to lean on. You don't have that crutch. You can't be like, well, this roster struggled last year, so I'm here to kind of improve it year by year. No, he wants to win right away, which he made clear, which every coach does. He wants to win right away, but he also knows that he does not have the luxury of sort of being at this. Like he doesn't get multiple cracks at this. He will not, like if he fails at Colorado, I don't know if he'll get a Power 5 job right away. I doubt it. I imagine he would have to go back to the FCS level or Group of 5 level if he fails. Now I'm not saying he will fail. This is just me saying if he does fail. So I totally get why those players were hurt. I totally understand why you kind of come into this program excited with Coach Prime at the helm and you're like, okay, cool. Coach Prime is going to be coaching us. Coach Prime had great success at Jackson State. Coach Prime is an NFL Hall of Famer. I want to play for him. But you also have to understand that it's a business. And I don't think a lot of these guys were grasping that fact. I think a lot of them were kind of naive to the sense of like, okay, I'm here and so he'll keep me here. And that's not how it works. It happens all the time. For example, I always go to Texas because it's a program that I was covering right out of college. Terrence Brooks, former 5-star corner, was basically asked to leave the program. He is now in the transfer portal, and he's going to end up at probably, I think it was UTSA is what I saw was the leading contender for him. That's a 5-star corner. That is a guy who had 30 offers, 40 offers, whatever it may be, and he was asked to leave the program. So you're telling me that guys that were injured, guys that didn't play for that bad team, you're telling me those guys weren't expecting to sort of be asked to leave? I think that's just naive on their part. And I think this is a way that I think this is where a lot of people were upset about it. And I think you just kind of have to get over it because this is how Coach Prime operates. A lot of people didn't really understand the fact that, you know what, coaches, they need to win now, blah, 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 whatever, maybe. but it was the fact that it was recorded. I think if it was behind closed doors and Coach Prime was like, you know what, I just don't think this is going to work out, I think that would have been different. But him being on video saying, you know what, I'm bringing my own luggage. It's Louis. Don't want you here. Thank you. Appreciate it. Whatever it may be. I think that's the part that got people going the wrong, or got people feeling kind of jaded. And it's like, guess what? Everyone does it. Every program in America is telling players to leave. Like, hey, you did not work out here. You are currently taking up a roster spot. Please leave. You are currently not living up to potential. We recruited you here to be a starter, and you're barely in the two deep, or you're barely cracking the fourth team, like whatever it may be. I think a lot of the people, all the people that are pushing for college athletes to get paid and become employees of the school, whatever it may be, I totally agree. They should get their money. They should be compensated for the revenue they generate. But you realize when money is at stake, when jobs are at stake, you are an employee regardless. Like college athletes are currently not employees, but they get paid, they command money, they want to bring in all this NIL money, and they're expected to just, or they expect to sort of just be like, you know what? I'm here, you're paying me, I'm on scholarship, life is good. No, it is a two-way street. If you're not producing, if I'm not producing at whatever job it may be, like if I work at, I don't know, if I'm a businessman selling real estate, if I'm a real estate agent and I don't sell any houses for 4 months in a row, but it's like I'm under contract, you said you were going to pay me, and they're like, yeah, actually we did, but that was under the assumption that you would be producing. You were not producing, therefore you don't get to you don't get to really continue this. I don't know how to say it. You don't get to sort of continue this job. You don't get to sort of work the same job. Like I said, you don't get to keep that same job just because you want it. So I think it's the harsh reality that a lot of people weren't realizing was going on behind closed doors. But I do think a lot of the players and the people that are criticizing Coach Prime for kicking him out, they need to open their eyes and be like, this happens everywhere. I just think it happens a little differently. When we come back, we're going to be talking about the latest on quarterback Julian Lewis. I think Colorado has a legitimate chance for him. This episode of Locked on Buffs is brought to you by our sponsors over at Monopoly Go. All right, game off. We got to pause here to talk about Monopoly Go. I know what you're saying. Flag on play. You have already talked about that, but there's just so much good stuff in the game. And Monopoly Go, you can team up with friends for time tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock, and there's so much to get. Unique stickers you could trade with friends to complete albums for big prizes. Cool new playing pieces to travel boards with. Hilarious emojis for taunting friends when you smash your buildings or heist your vaults. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges. A ton include their own unique minigames. And there's always new timed events that help you win big, like massive multipliers for everything you win or rent frenzies. There's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go, so get off the bench and go download it now for free on Google Play or the App Store. Welcome to Locked On Buffs. Welcome back to Locked On Buffs. Excuse me. I appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me your first listen of the day. To conclude this episode, I'm doing a quick little brief update on Julian Lewis, the 5-star quarterback out of Georgia. The Colorado Buffaloes are making some noise. They're clearly catching his eye. He's expected to visit them in June, and realistically, that is a big deal. Now, he's committed to USC still. He took a visit to USC recently to kind of feel out what they're going to build around him, what kind of class they're going to put around him. He's going to visit Georgia. He's going to visit Auburn. There's a lot of schools after him. But the thing that Colorado offers, and I think maybe Auburn already offers as well, is the potential to play right away. Does USC offer that? They have Miller Moss. They have the UNLV transfer. Do they offer that? Colorado offers playing time right away. His father acknowledged that they're building something. So he gets that Colorado's building something. He sees the vision. Now, is the vision convincing enough to sort of urge Lewis to come to Colorado? Well, I think that's completely up to how the team does in 2024. If Colorado makes a bowl game or is contending in the Big 12, they have to be in the mix. If Colorado has another down season, I would say, well, that'd be a tough sell. It'd be like, okay, we couldn't do it with Shedeur Sanders, but we're going to do it with you. Obviously, he's a 5-star quarterback, so there's a lot of expectations, but the expectation to be the savior after another down season would be quite a bit. And would it work out? I don't know. But if Colorado succeeds in 2024, I realistically think that this team has a chance to bring in a really special 2020 Sorry, got unplugged there. They landed a bunch of high school talent. Is it going to work out in favor of Julian Lewis? Maybe. But if they're continuing to build this 2025 class, it'll show that Coach Prime is like, yeah, I'm sticking around. I'm trying to put something special together here. I want you to be a part of it. I want you to be the face of it. I think that's the selling point to Julian Lewis, and we'll just have to wait and see if it works. I appreciate you guys for tuning in to Locked on Buffs every single day, making me your first listen of the day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.